Welcome back to the Tux and Tomahawks podcast. I am Adam Dorito, and today I'm bringing back Teresa Carpenter because we wanted to give you guys an update of what's going on in our political advocacy efforts with Joseph Fernau. He's a cadet at the Air Force Academy, and yes, I am his official government sponsor in D.C., his victim advocate, so to speak, because what Joe's going through is very serious. And for people who don't know, my case is mostly resolved at this point. And I love what the Secretary of the Air Force is doing and the Undersecretary of the Air Force, Mr. Matt Lohmeyer. They are patriots. He's also an Air Force Academy grad and dealt with his own cases of retaliation. And I think he's going to take this case strictly to heart because what's going on with the Secretary of War under Mr. Pete Hegseth, what is going on at the Academy with Joseph Fernau is absolutely illegal. We've gone through all the documents, and even this week, they tried issuing him an LOR from Major Ojeda, or whatever his name is. And I read through it, and it's absolute garbage. I mean, with all due respect, I tell this to every single person in the military. The JAG's only job is to protect the command. And the problem is they give a bunch of illegalisms, and they kind of throw them out there to these cadets who don't understand law, and they get freaked out and they get scared. But when you have people like me who've been through the entire system all the way up to the President of the United States, through the Air Force Board of Corrections and Military Records over 6 times, and you know the ins and outs of how this works, and Teresa is also very familiar with these processes. What it comes down to is you have to slow down, think about what you're doing, and just ask for help. And I'm so proud of Joe because my biggest problem with cadets, all of you out there at USAFA watching this right now, is that when you do reach out to me for help over the last 15 years, some of you guys are officers, some of you guys are civilians now because you didn't want to listen to me, is you're not 100% transparent, or you want to remain anonymous. And that's great. It worked in the beginning. You know, I was a little hesitant to do these things, but with Joe, he's been 100% transparent. And just to be clear, nothing from his investigation was ever publicly published. That is something his chain of command has accused him of. But as his advocate in D.C., as a military advocate specialist in here, we've reviewed all the evidence. We never released any so-called PII that he was accused of. We blocked everything out, and every other piece of information, including his commander, the superintendent at the Air Force Academy, all of this is public information that you can just Google search for anyone who doesn't believe me. So we're going to present a lot of those things on the internet tonight, minus obviously letters or anything signed. So Teresa, thank you so much for coming back on the show tonight.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to speak out for Joe because I really do believe that he's been railroaded by this system currently, because when you are a victim of a false accusation, it is very, very traumatic. And yes, Joe made a mistake, but we've all made mistakes. And as we will discuss further, there's a lot of mistakes that somehow slip by and go past the radar. But unfortunately, he's getting hammered for this. And he's a good kid. He's a good airman and officer. I believe he has so much potential. And I believe that he's going to be an incredible asset to the United States Air Force.
No, I agree. And for those who need to know the background of his case, go back and watch Teresa's podcast on Stories of Service. It's got thousands of views already. It's got over 80,000 views on my Instagram and everything else of what we were going through in the video clips. This is just an update of what's currently going on. So he has to September 19th to submit his appeal to the Secretary of the Air Force. Him and his lawyer and his legal team have submitted what they decided they want to do. I consulted on some of those pieces of replies that I suggested they change or not change or take things out or add things to that based upon my experience with the SecAF. I think he has an extremely strong case. But the fact is that they're still retaliating against him. They're still trying to get him to shut up. And to be fair, I would make one thing very clear that happened at the Air Force Academy because of this podcast, because of the Dark Saber productions and everything I did with the Dark Saber podcast, which you guys can go listen to seasons 1 and 2, Dark Saber. It's on Spotify. It was all audio back then. But I interviewed dozens of cadets over these issues over the last 10 years. This is not just Joe. This is multiple issues, right? And Joe's case is extremely strong that he had a self-identified trans individual sexually assault him, basically, under the law because he could not consent. He was on heavy narcotics, even though they had a consensual relationship off of Tinder, right? And just that alone, the case should have been thrown out. And it should have been reviewed. And obviously, cadet punishments are 100% appropriate in this instance. But, for being 37 now, everyone at USAFA between the ages of 18 and 22 are doing these things. You're probably doing it right now as I'm speaking on this podcast. There's underage drinking. There's fraternization going on. It's just how the military is. It's not just at USAFA. It's everywhere. And I'm sure Teresa can speak on those things as an 05.
And I do understand that they have to have rules. And I do understand that fraternization in the Air Force Academy is a serious offense. Mm-hmm. But I think that like every other offense, we have people in the military like myself. In 2014, I received a DUI. And I was given a second chance. And there are others like me who have had things happen and made terrible mistakes, and we're able to recover from them. And I think that in every case, you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. And you have to look at what the potential is of this person and what you think they can do later on and what they have already demonstrated in their leadership abilities and in their abilities to serve in the United States military.
100%. And the entire reason I started Leatherwood Development Group was because I never want what happened to me to happen to anyone else ever again. There is a systematic problem with abuse within the ranks, inequity of treatment, misuse of the UCMJ, because cadets just don't get it. They don't understand. And no offense, but most of the lawyers, even the doctors at USAFA, they're all brand new, fresh out of school. They're trying really hard, but for the most part, they don't want to get slammed by a 3-star general or a 1-star or, a colonel as a group commander. They're afraid because they're at the Air Force Academy to cut their teeth. They're there to try to further their career, and they're kind of do as they're told, right? So I always encourage cadets, if you can afford outside counsel who actually has military legal experience, go hire them or go find somebody from another base, because at USAFA, unfortunately, it's still the good old boys club. We're trying to change that. Like, we're trying to make USAFA great again, so to speak, right? But there has to be accountability. And I think under the new Secretary of War, Mr. Pete Hegseth, he's actually holding leaders accountable. And we're trying to bring that issue directly to him right now with this case. There are policy memos that have been issued in the past, very recently, that applied directly to Joe's case. And I actually want to bring that up right now and talk about it. I'm going to bring them up on the screen here. There's our beautiful Air Force Academy. That doesn't look like that right now because it's in a box still. The chapel needs to get fixed, right? But what I want to review, and this goes directly to the superintendent because I know you're going to watch this. I also know that the commandant's going to watch this. And also the colonel is going to watch this. So let's reread the memorandum for the secretaries of military departments, right? The whole goal of this memo is in support of this effort, you will review your respective MEO and EEO programs, identify areas for reform, and provide plans to streamline the investigation process. Timely, address problematic behaviors, mitigate undue mission impacts. Military department plans must include a minimum specific actions to ensure complaints that are unsubstantiated by actionable, credible evidence are timely dismissed. In Joe's entire case, which we reviewed, which we presented in the original podcast, there is clear evidence that the person who levied sexual assault claims against Joe is jealous because he got a new girlfriend. She lied. She committed false official statements. And not only that, she got off the hook, was allowed to resign and go to Stanford University, right? And label this kid with $240,000 worth of debt, right? So favorable personnel actions involving the alleged offender are appropriately considered in circumstances where the preliminary or the subsequent investigation does not indicate that the complaint is likely to be substantiated. It says it right there. Right. USAFA's case is dead right there because of this policy memo. There are too many people putting in false complaints against commanders. And don't get me wrong, I advocate mostly for sexual assault survivors at the Air Force Academy. I was one of them myself. And there's a massive injustice, but according to the Secretary of War, and at the time it was Defense before they changed it in April, it says right there are too many of these issues going on in the military right now. There are
Right.
too many people that are abusing the reporting systems and taking advantage of people like Joe and trying to destroy his life. And at the end of it, administrative and or disciplinary actions against personnel who knowingly submit false complaints are appropriately considered pursuant to
Right.
the applicable laws and regulations. Complete review, prepare plans, specific reviews, yada, yada, yada.
But the
This is
problem
public
is we just
information.
haven't seen it. We haven't seen any action towards those who are lodging false complaints. In fact, like
Exactly.
you said, we're still seeing that even when is evidence, text messages showing that this was a consensual encounter, the person is still able to go on and not face any consequences. And so until that changes, and I mean, because a comparable example is that if all I saw from the Department of War was you guys just need to cut out this social media conduct in the light of the
Yep.
current killings, I would not have thought anything of what they were saying. I would have said, you're not walking, you're just talking the talk, you're not walking the walk. But when I'm starting to see in articles that there are certain people that are getting relieved and they're under investigation and there's more action being taken, then I know that they would take this seriously. So I will know that the Department of War is taking this seriously when we're starting to see false allegations that can be proven with evidence prosecuted, because the
Yes.
people who are victims of false allegations are just as much victims, in my opinion, as the people who have been sexually assaulted. And it's time for us to look at it the same exact way. An injustice has been done to Joe. Yes, he made a mistake, but an injustice has been done to him. He does not deserve a $240,000 bill. He does not deserve the opportunity to serve his nation. And I can only hope that the SecApp will take this seriously, consider the evidence, consider his prior record, consider the conduct that he had prior to this one incident. One incident. It's not even like he did.
Never had any disciplinary issues before this incident. Not a single one.
I mean, that's what's so
I messed up more
frustrating.
than Joe did at USAFA, and I've admitted that full force.
I mean, this whole situation just blows my mind that you can have one transgression while you are a cadet, and it will literally cause you to have to pay back a $240,000 bill. And oh, by the way, lose your dream. It just
and here's the
kills
thing,
me.
Teresa, and I think this goes to the policies of the previous administration, right? And this goes to one of the most recent incidences. This is the Air Force Academy soccer team. There was an incident of hazing and sexual assault. There was like 18 people that were getting investigated and court-martialed and all this other crazy stuff. And then magically it all went away. They served cadet punishments. They all signed non-disclosure agreements, weren't allowed to talk about it, and they were told to shut up. So you're telling me that an entire soccer team that happens to be a Division I sports team is found guilty of all these things, harassing and hazing and all these things that we don't want in the military,
Sure.
and they're allowed to graduate.
Yeah, it blows
And they're
my
allowed.
mind.
So that's not equity of treatment, right? So if we're going to apply the UCMJ, we're going to drop the hammer. Let's do it equally across the board. This was not done equally to Joe. And unfortunately, I think it goes into DEI politics, right? So I want to bring up his commander, which again, this is not defamatory information against this colonel. She is a colonel now. You put this on the internet and you published it yourself, right? It even says, I'll have to zoom in and read this. The dance intended to bring rain to the crops. The woman prepares her ensemble for the day. She does her traditional attire comprised with a wooden headdress, long black wood belt, moccasins. Okay, great. I think that's awesome. You identify with your nativeness. I think that's great. But she actually has a bias. The woman also asks the greater beings and spirits to protect her and her unit as she prepares for another deployment. I, the term warrior, whether I can associate myself with the term, although I come from a lineage of Native American people, as a warrior, it is most commonly portrayed as a male figure who painted, wearing feathers and wore bonnets ready to engage.
Why is this identity so important? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, you know what? I like to go sing karaoke, let's just say. And do you think they're going to write an entire article about the fact that I go singing and the songs that I've sung and how karaoke is this? I mean, I haven't done it a ton of times, but you know what I'm trying to say? Or the fact that I like to write. I mean, these are all wonderful things that make Teresa. This makes her who she is. Great. But is this the kind of thing that we should be pushing as a war fighting organization?
Like I said, this is a lieutenant colonel in uniform. So obviously she got clearance from PAO to do this, right? And it even says the path was often intimidating, demeaning, and unequal and unacceptable. Throughout history, women have served in the military in numerous capacities, revealing different faces of the woman warrior, right? Historically, women have wanted to serve in much more than that, and in many instances, they would dress like men in order to hide their gender. So now we're getting into identity politics. Why is that relevant to your position as a so-called leader or warrior in the military? Why are you bringing this up? Why are you dressing like this and trying to force it down people's throats and identifying that it's unfair to women, or, we don't need to worry
Well,
about
and it's
gender?
exclusionary towards
Why?
men. I mean, it's
Right.
just
Why?
it's divisive. I mean, that's kind of how I see it. Like, I have nothing against people that want to get into their own tribes and be in
Sure.
their own people that they have things in common with. I mean, we all have
Yep.
professional organizations. We have this or we have that. But when we come into the uniform, when we come into the workforce, we want to be seen as one with the team. We
Mhm.
want to do as much as we can to show that these are our brothers and sisters in arms.
Yes.
When we hyper focus on race, or we hyper focus on Indian heritage, or we hyper focus on any of these other outside identities, what we're doing is we're further isolating ourselves from one another.
Yes.
We're saying, I'm different, I'm special, I identify as this. I am that. I am not the same as you guys. And all that does is it isolates you from the group, and it starts to break down good order and discipline eventually. So it may seem like a harmless little article when you look at it, but when you don't really understand what DEI is aiming to do, you think it's harmless. You think, oh yeah, this is great. This is diversity. We can all hold hands and sing kumbaya and be inclusionary, but it's really exclusionary.
Yes,
Because
I
if
agree.
you're not part of one of these protected classes, or you're not part of one of the special classes that can be a part of the diversity team, well, then you're excluded. And that would include every white male, because they can't be a part of any of these groups many of the times.
Right.
And that is where this type of identity politics has infested our armed forces.
And it's been
unfortunately,
detrimental. It's been detrimental for
has.
the last few years. I mean, this, like I said, you can identify as whatever you want. My only concern is that you meet the standard, right? If you meet the standard, you can serve. Great, got it.
Right.
And that comes to medical, physical, whatever else. But unfortunately, even pulling up her LinkedIn profile, this officer was assigned to the Secretary of the Air Force under the Biden administration, and she was assigned to the LD division, legislative directors or whatever, and they were responsible for enforcing a lot of these policies within the Air Force, or figuring how they're going to be implemented. So you already have a person who openly has stated, like I said before, I just pulled it up. If you don't go reverse back, or here, I'll even pull it up again for you to even see it. But she stated that there is a bias against women, and men have oppressed women and all these other things. Like, so you have a bias going in, and now you're in charge of writing policy for the Air Force. That's kind of a problem, right? And on top of that, pulling up marriage certificates and everything else, she was married to a senior enlisted Marine. So you're telling me that this officer, who obviously was committing fraternization at some point in her career because she married a senior enlisted Marine and now she's an 06, so obviously something was going on. And you're going to hold Joe to the same so-called fraternization standard at USAFA between two cadets who don't hold real rank because it's all Harry Potter rules there. That's just hypocrisy at its best, right? So, no, this is not bad information about this person. These are all facts that are posted on the internet that are pulled from your public profiles and background searches, right? This is all public information. This is not horseshoes and hand grenades. It all makes sense. So, if you're a leader that can't uphold the same standard when it comes to fraternization, or putting select groups of other people above yourself, then maybe you shouldn't be in command of training the next generation of warriors coming out of our federal service academies, where we demand the best performance possible.
And I think the thing is like, it's interesting because, Adam, I've been in for, I just retired in September, but I was in for almost 30 years. And when I first got into the military, we really were just kind of colorblind, and we were gender blind.
So were we. I had BDUs when I first joined, and no one knew.
I mean, like,
you are not a unique and special snowflake like Tyler Durden said.
I never wanted to be different. I never wanted to be recognized as a woman. I never wanted any of that. In fact, I steered away from that my whole career. And then it started, I would say, around the Obama administration. There started to be this real emphasis on diversity and Black History Month, and all these different things. And I remember when it first came out, I thought it was a good thing. I did. I was like, okay, good.
I wasn't against it.
I was not against it. But what happened is I feel like over time it started to take a turn where it became an obsession. It became like the most hyper focused thing that the military was doing. And it started to break down good order and discipline because people could see that, oh, yeah, I can just go off to this special conference and DOD is going to pay for it. And I
People
can
are being
show up in my
selected for command
uniform.
positions, right?
And
Yeah.
people, exactly. I started to see leaders that I was serving with that just were wholly unqualified to be there. And I
Yep.
realized that what they were doing is they were picking people based on certain affinities instead of picking what the right person for the job would be.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I am so grateful for Hegseth and for the new administration is that they're trying to restore this warrior ethos and this return to standards and good order and discipline. And I'll be honest, there's people that are going to say, "Oh, Teresa, you flip-flopped, you were all about it for a while." And I'll be honest, I didn't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
And then
It's okay to change your mindset.
Exactly. It is okay to evolve. It is okay to mature your views. And it is okay to read the room and see what is happening. And when I started working around people that I knew were quote unquote diversity hires, and I couldn't say they were diversity hires, but they were not qualified to be in those positions. That's when I realized that, oh God, this is not a good thing. And then I also realized that what this does is it promotes a victim mindset because it makes people feel that they're oppressed. And you have the oppressors and then you have the oppressed. And people who are falling under these categories realize that they're quote unquote protected and they can now be untouchable. And you can't question certain things. You can't do certain things because they're either a woman or they're black or they're this or they're that. And it's like, well, where does it fucking end then? Where does this whole thing end? So I think what's happening. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that was the problem with the administrative changeover. So I want to talk about the current superintendent at the Air Force Academy. This is General Bauernfeind. And actually, we were going to bring on Aaron Love tonight. He's a 20-year plus pararescue special operations and worked for this general officer. So he had a lot to say about him because he's got personal experience with the man before he came over to USAFA, right? And this is also a problem I hold about standards. So he was appointed by General Silf. He got fired by Hegseth through the door for the first couple weeks. We got rid of him for obvious reasons. If you don't know, just go Google what that guy was doing in the Air Force. It was a huge problem, right? But even the current AOG CEO, General Michael Gould, who actually was the guy who caused all my issues, he admitted in his exit interviews that he was having sex with his student pilot, who is now his wife. So it's like you have the guy that's in charge of the AOG, the CEO of the AOG, right, is now encouraging this guy to get appointed to the Air Force Academy as the new current superintendent, right? And I would let Aaron speak for himself next time we bring him on here because I want him to give you a firsthand experience of what this general was like working for him under Air Force Special Operations Command. But let me just bring it up to here because I was talking to some of his AFSOC pararescue special tactics guys. Yeah, I just want to bring this one up first. So he has committed multiple offenses that would end anyone's career. In Afghanistan, he left his weapon in a damn porta potty. He failed 2 PT tests. He crashed an Osprey into the trees at Cannon, which actually corrected was at Herbie. It wasn't at Cannon. And despite the IP telling him to go around, he then tried to Q3 the crew, but not himself, and letting him go do it. I was at Herbie. He pursued absurd policies at AFSOC, including taking away the electronic flight boards and making them carry paper pubs wherever they went, which makes everything enormously difficult. Right? These are from the people that worked for him. Okay, and then he said, "Yeah, these are his own airmen. These are his own airmen that worked for him, right?" And they're even saying that this is the good reason that he was soft fired. And when he got soft fired, that's when he picked up his 3rd star and went to the Air Force Academy. So the Air Force, right? And this is before the current administration, picked this guy who failed in AFSOC under his airmen, crashed an aircraft, and then they put him over at the Air Force Academy to train the next generation of warriors. And like I said, this is public information. I don't know this guy personally. I never worked for him. This is what your airmen have said about you, right? And that's a problem. Is that we are picking the best of the worst to lead Americans and become the next generation of officers. And honestly, I honestly think the Secretary of the Air Force needs to have a serious review of the leadership at the Air Force Academy and what's going on. Because if these are the people that are making decisions to kick kids out, like Joe Fernau, when the evidence clearly points that he didn't do anything criminal and that other cadets, such as, once again, the soccer team, have been given far more leniency for far worse offenses, right? then we need to consider about who's training the next generation of warriors. We really do.
I agree. I agree. And I think that it's very unfortunate to me to see the rot that's at the top. I mean, you may have been seeing lately, I've been cracking down on a Facebook group for female naval officers, and the people that are the admins of these groups are some of the most senior, either retired or senior officers who have a voice on these pages, and they silence any dissent, anybody who disagrees with them. They will allow people to bully others if you don't align with their views or their position. And it's indicative of what has happened to the entire force. We do not have this return to civics. We do not have a place where people can speak freely. They can speak their mind. They can speak and they will be respected, and they can voice their opinions. I mean, take Joe. I mean, he went on a podcast using his First Amendment protections. He did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong. He was completely respectful the entire time. And
we were the ones that were pushing buttons. And that's fine. We're allowed to.
Right. But he got a letter of reprimand for that. Why?
Yeah. He got, because the Air Force Academy, they're scared because they know that, are they going to do anything on their own volition? No, because they have zero integrity to do the right thing. And that's actually what I have a problem with, is that, you know what, General, we can shake hands. We can go for a coffee. We can grab a beer, whatever you want. Call me up. You can find me. It's not that hard. I'm in the global, right? Just do the right thing. It's okay to admit that you made a mistake. I made mistakes when I was a cadet. I've made mistakes as a soldier, you know, but I've learned from them and move on. And I have one of the loyalist followings of junior NCOs and senior NCOs that I know. Like I am the saltiest officer, so to speak, / former NCO in the United States Army, right? But that's you know, like I said in the first podcast, General Mattis said to me when I talked to him in person that Marines need to make mistakes to become actual Marines, right? And it's okay to admit that, hey, even if I'm a 3-star general, you know, even if I'm a colonel, I made mistakes in my past. They weren't in line with the policy of the Secretary of War currently. It is okay to sit there and say, we messed up. And actually, I would respect all of you so much more, because my only objective is to fix the Air Force Academy so this doesn't happen anymore. I would respect all of you so much more if you came out and said, we screwed up, forgive me, and let's move on, and let's make our Air Force better. Let's
do better. I know. I feel the same way. I was thinking about that earlier today. I'm like, if in the case of the thing I've been advocating on, if the female naval officers were, you know, one of the admins were to write me and say, yeah, we really did you dirty, Teresa, and we'd love to have you back in the page. You know what I would say? I would say, thank you. I would say, I respect you. And that's a wonderful way to see this. I don't care that you're, you know, left of center or you have different views than me. Let's try to work together. And that's the problem with the military in general, is that I feel like there's just no place where I've ever seen, other than, I mean, to Sean Parnell's credit, when the DEI went too far with the purging, you know what? He got on camera and owned it and said, yep, we went a little too far. We think there might be, we don't know really why, but we're looking into it. And you know what? They fixed it. Even when they pulled all those books from the academy, and some of those books weren't really books that needed to be pulled, they returned those books.
Yeah, it's a First Amendment right. We rose our hand to protect the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? So I'm all about people's constitutional rights and speaking out freely and doing the right thing.
Me too.
Right? And speaking of First Amendment rights, you know, the person who accused Joe also uses her First Amendment rights, right? And she came out all publicly on the internet and talked about her identity and what she identifies as. And yes, I blocked her stuff out just so they don't get mad. But this is public information. It's all over the internet. This is the person that accused Joe of sexual assault, and it was a lie, and it was a false accusation, and they have proudly put the stuff all over the internet for everyone in the world to see. This is not PII. This is put it on the internet.
And the reason why we bring this up even is because we do know, and we've done the studies to look at this, that people who are identifying as transgender have mental health problems. This isn't just something that I'm making up either. There have been studies about this. Mm-hmm. And what we're trying to say is that needs to play into the credibility of this accuser. This was somebody who was having identity issues to begin with. She was having mental instability. This is a known thing. She put it out there. And
she said she had major mental health issues in the podcast.
Yes.
She said that. Like, she said that on her own volition. That's not me putting words into her mouth.
Right. And she told Joe the same thing. I mean,
Yep.
she trauma dumped on him as soon as the incident happened, and then kept trying to come around and wanting a relationship with him. And then when he ended up moving on to a new girlfriend, that's around the time that the complaint happened.
Correct.
So
And even if she came out and said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, this is wrong, and Joe should go back to live his normal life so he can serve as an officer. He got into that nursing program, which like 1 or 2 cadets get accepted to a year, and he was one of them. But like I said, going back to the SecDef's policy, or Sec War now,
yeah.
right? This complaint was frivolous, it was false, and it needs to be rescinded, and it needs to be fixed. That is directed by the Secretary of War.
And it kills me
Period.
that more people just can't do what Admiral Lawrence did. So Admiral Lawrence was the convening authority for Keith Berry, and they ended up contacting him several years later after the conviction. And it just gives me chills whenever I tell this story. I mean, he basically said to the lawyers, I've been waiting for you guys to call me. And they wrote up an affidavit, and he even added a paragraph where he's sorry. He said he was sorry for what he did. So he was living with this guilt for years, and did the right thing years later. And it just kills me that more people who can't do that, because
Yeah.
and I understand it. I mean, that's just the way life goes. Sometimes you get closure, and people will admit that they've done something wrong, and then they'll say they're sorry and they really mean it. In this case, in this of the affidavit, I really do believe that admiral was sorry. He would have never put his name on that piece of paper or added that last paragraph if he wasn't sorry for making the decision that he did. And I have a lot of respect for that. I really do. And I feel the same way in this case with Joe. If the Cadet Academy were to come back and say, you know what, we looked at this a little bit deeper and we understand. I mean, we wouldn't be trash talking these people. We would say, thank you.
And to be fair, we're not trash talking these people. We're reading exactly from the investigation. We're reading exactly what occurred, and we're telling you exactly what happened by the facts. I don't know any of you. I have no idea who any of you are. I just read the facts. I read the investigation. And as a fair, just person with integrity, I'm telling you that this is wrong. There's not I talk, and to be fair, because people might say, oh, Dorito, you have a bias because of your experience at the academy. You are correct. So you know what I did to make sure I didn't have any confirmation bias over this? I asked every single one of my officers, my leaders in my battalion. I laid everything out black and white with no references to anything. I said, if this happened to one of our soldiers here, what would you do?
Right.
And the worst response I got was, I would make that kid show up for PT at 3 a.m. and run 12 miles with a ruck and a rifle. Like, you know, granted, we do things differently in the Army. But that was the extent of Joe's punishment. And that's coming from like combat vets who have over 20, 30 years experience in the United States Army. Right?
Yeah.
This is clearly that they're protecting a class of people that we had issues with. And that's why we're trying to sort these issues out now in the Department of War. Because sometimes, you know, your personal feelings are not compatible with military service, right? The military is not guaranteed for everybody. It is not a right to serve in the military. It's actually pretty hard to serve in the military, whether it's from medical, physical, psychological, all these things, right? Our only job, and I know people aren't going to want to hear this, is to break people and break things and kill people, right? Yeah. That's it. No matter, even if you're cleaning out the toilets on a KC-135, you are still part of the kill chain and everything that we do. Right. And if you can't succeed and increase that lethality that we are demanding, there's plenty of other jobs in America. There's plenty of other things to do. We live in the best country in the world. You could do so many other things, but maybe the military is not for you. And that's okay.
It is okay. And I believe that Joe has a very strong case. I believe that this is something that I can only hope they're going to take seriously. They're going to look at. There is no reason in the world why you would want to throw away such an opportunity for Joe and for the Air Force over one minor transgression. And I think the other thing that upsets me about this whole issue, and I said it on my show yesterday, is the fact that we have got to get comfortable with talking about uncomfortable things.
Yes,
we have got to be okay that people have sex. Guess what? People in their 20s have sex. People in their 30s, 40s, 50s, we all have sex. And that is part of life. But I think there's this stigma and there's this thing where, oh, can't touch this issue. And I think it gets in the way and it clouds people's judgment, because then they bring in their own morality, their own religion, their own bias and their own beliefs about this issue, even though they conveniently forget that when they were in their 20s, you know, they were a part of this whole dating pool as well. They might have moved on now and have families and kids and and whatever. But this is the reality of where our kids are and where our young people are, is that they're in the dating world. They're doing these things. They sometimes make these mistakes, and you don't just throw the book at them and stick them with a $240,000 bill over a consensual one night of a consensual encounter. It is so hypocritical to me, and it is
They
so
do it now. You go on
horrific.
the anonymous forum messages that I get from the Air Force Academy on this program called Yodel. There's cadets right now just looking for sex all the time. That's what they do.
Sure,
I mean,
of course.
it's terrible. But here's the thing: is like I said, Undersecretary of the Air Force and Secretary of the Air Force and Secretary of War, we're asking you to really look at this case. You're going to get the paperwork this week. I'm sorry we couldn't meet last week when I was in DC. I'm sure we'll try to reschedule in November. You have my contact with the people that we work with, and we'll discuss these things because, like I said, I really care about changing USAFA. But for everyone watching this podcast right now, there's things that you can do and you can get involved, because we all talk about we can support Joe, and yeah, please share the podcast and all this other stuff. But we need to take action. And one of the first things, I need you to call Congressman Jeff Crank. Congressman Jeff Crank is down in the Springs. He's responsible for the Air Force Academy. Call his office, make some noise, because the only way that these people are going to take these congressional inquiries seriously is if enough constituents are angry and calling their offices off the hook. Like, who is this Joe Fernau? Because they have no idea who he is. They have no idea how these processes work. But if enough civilians and even military members call the District 5's office in DC and say, we want justice for Joe and we want this case to be taken seriously, we want a letter to the Secretary of the Air Force on behalf of Congressman Crank, who serves the Air Force Academy District, to make our Air Force Academy better. Another number I'm going to put up here. All right, so let's go back to that. It's for those who are just listening. It's Congressman Crank's office is 202-225-4422.
And Adam, if you're not a constituent, should you also call?
Yeah,
Can
everyone
anybody,
call. Anybody can call.
Okay, good.
If you're watching this in Alaska, you can call. The other one is his personal representative. That's Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. I know Lauren. She's done some great things in the past, right? Her number is 202-225-4761. So like I said, if they get 100 to 200 phone calls this week, they're going to take notice and they're going to do something. Contact Joe. You can reach out to him on Instagram. He's not hard to find. And then also, I need you guys to call the United States Air Force at the Pentagon and make sure that the Secretary of the Air Force and Secretary of War have eyes on this. So call Air Force Public Inquiries at the Pentagon. That is 703-697-3039. And just to be fair, you're probably going to get a voicemail, but they're not going to answer the phone because they get thousands of phone calls a day. But if they have 100 to 200 phone calls from worried constituents and worried Americans about how their federal service academies are treating their cadets, and that there's an unjustified case going on, then they're going to look into it and take it seriously. That's what I did for 15 years. I wish I started it sooner. I didn't realize the game until about 12 years in, right? But yeah, you can go through the Air Force Board of Corrections and Military Records, and you can go to the President of the United States, you can go to the Secretary of Defense, and you can do all these things. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the court of public opinion, and that's why they're giving a Joe an LOR. That's why they're giving him all this stuff. They're trying to shut him up. That's why General Clark, the previous superintendent, because he got really mad that all these kids were coming on my podcast, that's why he started trying to stamp everything and overclassifying things as confidential, unclassified information, CUI, on everything from PowerPoints to emails.
That's what I don't understand.
You can't do that. Look, I'm an intelligence guy and I know this. Like, you can't purposely overclassify things, especially things that are definitely unclassified, for the purpose of protecting your own chain of command, and then threatening cadets, telling them that if you release this email that I sent to you that doesn't have any PII in it and publish it to the news, then I'm going to punish you for it because it makes me look bad. No, you can't do that. You can't do that, right? Like, and to be fair, once again, just to reiterate for the people who are going to watch this podcast and get pissed at me, we didn't publish anything on this podcast. No, we didn't publish the LOR.
We did not publish the investigation.
We didn't publish the investigation. We didn't publish anything personal. No names, no nothing, other than what was available publicly on the internet from a Google search, which is your fault. You put yourself on the internet. Sorry. Don't know what to tell you. So like I said, call Air Force Public Inquiries, call Congressman Crank, call Congresswoman Boebert. I know all of them personally, right? We're trying to work together in DC to make the Air Force Academy better. We're trying to hold our leaders accountable, but Joe can't do this with just Teresa and me and Joe. It's going to require all of you to demand accountability. And you as an American can participate in your own constitutional republic and actually fix these issues. You can.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of a country do we live in when somebody makes one mistake, one transgression, and we throw the book at them, and this is what the outcome is we just kick them out of the school? And this is just not, it's not leadership. It's not setting the example. And I want to be in a military that sets the example. And when they have a student who has a stellar track record and who has shown sustained superior performance up until one incident, you don't just kick the guy out. That's just not the right answer. And furthermore, you don't bully him after the fact and give him a nasty letter of reprimand for coming on a podcast and sharing his story. He has every right to share his story. And for you to do that, I mean, that's bullying him, and it's sending a message to other students. It's his life, and it's his First Amendment. And when he does so respectfully, and he does so in a way that is not bringing discredit upon the Air Force, and he's doing it in a way to say, no, I want a second chance. He has the right to do that. And just to
be clear, to reinforce that point, Teresa, when you become a member of the military under U.S. Code Title 10, you are required as a member of the military, no matter what rank you are, to report misconduct, corruption, and all these other things. It's in there. If you don't believe me, Google it, right? So for service members who are reporting retaliation against whistleblowers, right, who are reporting misconduct, who are reporting fraud, waste, and abuse, you are protected to do so. Joe is definitely a whistleblower. You know, we're going to file this IG complaint. We're going to take it all the way to the top because what they did against him is illegal under the UCMJ and under U.S. Code Title 10.
Retaliatory gesture to silence him and to take away his ability to speak to the press. I mean, because let's face it, the podcast world is the press world today. Yes. And if you don't advocate for yourself through these channels, then you will not get the public support. And you're right. The court of public opinion is a very strong court. When you just trust the system, a lot of times that doesn't work out so well for you. I mean, when you look at cases like Bradley Geary, that's one of the reasons why his case got dropped and why they didn't take it any further was because he took his case to the court of public opinion on the Sean Ryan show, and he was able to get some semblance of justice because of that. He didn't go to a board of inquiry. He didn't have to retire at a lower pay grade. He was not administratively punished. And unfortunately, that's what sometimes it takes on some of these cases. And so for the Air Force to say, no, Joe, you're a cadet. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to go to the press. And we're going to say that you used PII and you brought up, in fact, we intentionally blacked out this person's name, even though she was not a victim. She was not a victim, so she has no protections anyway. She's
actually a perpetrator, technically.
She's a perpetrator because it was cleared. But we did so just to be extra careful. And then they still tried to say that we outed her in this letter of reprimand. And then
you
they
outed
tried
yourself.
Right. You're the one that went on the podcast. And all we wanted to do was show that this person already had some identity and some mental health issues. We weren't trying to...
We didn't disparage her at all. We just said, this is how you identify, and these are the facts of the history of the people that serve like this in the military. And once again, to go back to Mr. Hegseth's letter, we are to get rid of false accusations and get rid of these things out of our military because it's put a rot in the system, right? We need officers of integrity.
And this is what happened. I mean, I like I said, I still credit, and I said that on the show, OSI for conducting a fair investigation, which is what they have to do when these allegations come up, and clearing him of these charges, because after they collected the evidence, they saw that this was not a case. That's where this should have been dropped. I mean,
to caveat on that, or to piggyback, as we say in the Army, my biggest question to that is also Air Force OSI agents, which we're not going to say your name on the podcast, but I know what they are. You knew that this was wrong. You found it unfounded, and you knew that she engaged in consensual sexual activity by driving out to this guy and finding him when he was laid up on drugs in a cast, when he was on heavy narcotics, and made a false official statement clearly. Why didn't you press charges against her for all of those things?
That's a great point. That's
Why?
A great point.
Who told you to do that? If you guys are federal agents and you're moral and ethical OSI agents that I know you guys think you're really cool when you get your badges and your guns, right? Like, who told you to do that? Because if I was in OSI at the time, there is no way that I wouldn't have turned this around and said, this is a false allegation and she needs to be charged now and held accountable, because this woman is now living her free life at Stanford University with no repercussions. No repercussions, but now we're going to hold Joe accountable? Like, come on. Like, that's just unbelievably inequity of treatment and application of the UCMJ. And that's
Yeah.
everything that you guys swore an oath to. That's why you guys want to be cool guys and walk around in suits and no uniforms. This is real time, deep blue hero stuff. And you guys aren't living up to the oath and the badge that you wear. I don't get it. They did the same thing to me when I was going through the same thing. But like, if you're telling me that a general officer, is it the superintendent, is it a colonel, is your wing commander? I don't know who it is, but someone's telling you to do those things. And I'm just telling you, be a moral and ethical airman and do the right thing and stand up. Because if we don't have people standing up to the system and the parts that are broken, it's never going to get fixed.
It's never going to get fixed.
It's never going to get fixed.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Adam. And that's really a lot of what my podcast is about, is that we have to make our voices heard and we have to make ourselves known so that we can help the people that are coming after us, especially me. I'm no longer serving. I'm a veteran. At this point, I just want to help the people that are still serving have a better place than where I left it. And only way to do that is to expose the parts of the military that are rotting from within. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people who have bought into this identity politics, DEI nonsense, and it has destroyed our military and it's destroyed the force. It has taken away good order and discipline. It has taken away standards. It has taken away fair treatment across the board, which is what we want. We understand that, again, he committed a infraction. He committed something that you should not do within the academy, but he does not deserve to be dismissed from the academy as a result of these actions. And so I do call, as you do, on the SecDAF to please consider this appeal, consider his package. I know it's going up soon for consideration. I'll be tracking this closely. You'll be tracking this closely. And I can only just hope for a good outcome.
No, I agree. And this is one more thing to Joe's chain of command. I know who you are. I know every single one of you, right? If you want to advocate for Joe and you know that he's being oppressed by the system and you're being told to do the wrong thing, reach out to me. I'll advocate for you too. If you're being retaliated against by a 3-star general because of these BS policies that they're making up with the Harry Potter rules, AMTs, AOCs, group commander, all of you, reach out to me. I'll take care of it. I know people, okay? If this is the problem at the Air Force Academy that we're experiencing, that I experienced 15 years ago, same freaking system, all right? I need you all to pull together and do the right thing and do what you are going to do at the Air Force Academy to train the best leaders in America. All right. We can't fix the Air Force Academy because I am so sick and tired of doing this podcast. Honestly, I am so sick and tired of interviewing kids every year with the same stories on the same repeat cycle. If USAFA is that broken, I know some of you are good. I know some of you had no problems, right? But if you guys are having issues with your chain of command or being, I'm not going to get promoted, I'm going to be retaliated against, I'm not going to make the next rank, I'm not going to get the next PCS billet, reach out to me. Okay. You can go on my website, adamdreher.com. You can reach out to me on there if you want to remain anonymous, whatever it is. And I will bring this issue directly to Washington, D.C. myself. I will do this. I will take care of it because I know the hoops. I know all the legalities of it. But the great thing is I'm a reservist. So when I'm not in uniform, I fall under different rules than you do when you're on active duty, okay? Because I need you all, men and women that are serving under Joe, and to just do the right thing.
Right.
Whatever. I can't fix what happened to me. We'll see what happens with that, but we can fix what's going to happen to Joe. And we can also stop any of these other issues from ever happening again at USAFA or any current ongoing issues that are going on at USAFA, right? We're going to hold leadership accountable. We're going to have an investigation, and we're going to make sure people do the right thing. And if you don't, we're going to keep pushing until it changes. So, Teresa, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast tonight. This is a little bit of a short one, but we said what we needed to say. We wish Joe the best of luck in D.C. here in the next couple of days. And if not, we're not giving up. Like I said, I fought my case for 15 years, and in a time frame, I think Joe's been fighting us for 15 minutes. So we'll take care of this.
All right. Thanks so much, Adam. It was a pleasure to be on the show with you. I'm happy to come on anytime and help you advocate for the people that you're advocating for. I thank you so much for what you're doing.
We'll bring Aaron on next time so he can tell us personal stories at AFSOC with the general. It'll be great. So until next time, like I said, my podcast has been pretty inconsistent, guys. I apologize. I normally post every Monday, but I am literally never here. I'm lucky I'm even in my house right now. I'm traveling around the country trying to save America. And I got lots of time literally trying to save America. There's a lot of things going on in a lot of states. So someone's got to do it if you're all not going to do it. So I'll do it. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time. All right.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.